Thank you, everyone. I hope it's been a fruitful event for everyone. I know it's the last day, but please bear with me for the next half an hour. We're going to talk about some good things and hopefully what you can get out of volunteering and contributing to open source. Let me introduce myself. Does this thing work, though? No. Come on. Is it dead? Something happened, yeah. So I've been in the Netherlands since 2014. My first job was at a Dutch company called ProDrive Technologies. Started working there in 2015. Quit last year at the beginning, and then I joined Mondu. We're an infrastructure security company. I work on our open source tooling, which is CNQuery, CNSpec, and our Kubernetes operator. And in 2021, I joined a Bulgarian nonprofit organization called Podkrepi. There I'm tech lead operations, and I also help with security from time to time because we don't have a dedicated person for that. And actually, this is what I want to talk to you about today. Okay, this thing is not cooperating. I'll use the keyboard. So Podkrepi is a non-profit organization. Essentially, we built a platform that's sort of like Kickstarter, where people can post their campaigns for different types of charities, and then users can find them on the platform, can select one they like, and then they can donate money for it. As I said, the whole thing is backed by a non-profit organization that's registered in Bulgaria. Yeah, as you can see there, Podkrepi, this is a verb. It actually means support. The goals of the platform are, first and foremost, it should be trustworthy. So what we do is, if anyone wants to create a campaign on the website, we actually verify it by experts in the field of the campaign itself. So for example, if someone comes up with a medical need, then we actually ask medical experts to verify that the whole thing is okay, it's actually true, the price is right, and only then we post it on the platform. Then the second goal is to be transparent, so the complete source code and also the complete organization is publicly available and accessible. We would like to be accountable because of the fact that we work with people's money, and especially because it's for charity. So what we do, whenever a campaign is actually fully funded, we transfer the money to the campaign owner, and then we also do an audit. So we actually verify how the money was spent. We create a report, and then we publish it publicly so people can see where their money went. And last, we also have no hidden fees. We don't get any commission, no fees, and nobody at the organization is actually working for a salary, so it's completely backed up by volunteers. The platform timeline, as you can see, it started in October 2020. That was when the idea was born to create such an organization. Then in February 2021, the nonprofit organization was registered in Bulgaria. In April 2022, we had the core functionality of the platform implemented. In August, we launched the public beta. And then somewhere in November, we had version 1 fully launched. And the same month, we already had our first successful campaign. Personally, I joined right after the nonprofit organization was registered, and that was also the time when the development actually started for the platform. The technical goals that we have, initially when we started, our idea was that this thing should be multidisciplinary. So we actually wanted to allow engineers with any type of background to be able to contribute to the platform. Then second place, we wanted to be reproducible. So if anyone actually wants to create a similar type of organization in their own country even, they can just grab the source code and then just run it. For that reason as well, we want to be infra-agnostic, so we don't want to rely on any specific cloud providers or any specific hardware. And finally, we want to be scalable because sometimes these things run into trouble because of traffic, and I'm going to show an example later in the slides. Just to give you a very, very generalized idea of what the thing does, I listed some requirements. So essentially what we need is, we need to be able to register users and beneficiaries. We want to have single sign-on with like Google, GitHub, whatever. We need to be able to create and manage campaigns, which also entitles that we should be able to upload and host pictures and documents. And on top of that, we need to do payment processing. That's a very general idea of the platform. So for that reason, we selected these technologies to support us on the way. We picked Kubernetes because it's a good infrastructure abstraction. It can run anywhere in the cloud in a managed environment or on a bare metal machine where you manage it yourself. We picked PostgreSQL for database because it's been around forever. It's free, it's well documented, everyone knows it. We use Keycloak for authentication and authorization, again, because it's a good abstraction and it comes with a lot of features out of the box. And we use S3 for uploading files and hosting them because it's widely adopted, it's standardized, and nowadays we can also find many, many implementations of it, so we're not locked to just AWS at this point. Because we had to run the whole thing for free, because we have no money, we don't take any commission, that was the initial challenge, so we need to run this thing somewhere. And as you know, compute is not cheap. The way it worked out at the beginning, we contacted a few Bulgarian hosting providers, and one of them actually gave us 3 virtual machines where we could set up whatever we need to get the whole thing running. And because of that, Rancher joined the party because we needed a way to easily bootstrap the whole Kubernetes thing and have some visualization around it. And we also use Ceph for distributed storage within the cluster and also as an implementation for the S3 interface, which we need. Now, how the whole thing went, it went out of hand very quickly, initially. So as I said, we wanted it to be a multidisciplinary thing, and the way people thought about that at the beginning, and I guess partially that was me as well, I was not fully supporting it, but I was also kind of into it. The idea was to get all the hyped up technologies, shove them together, mix it real good, also take all the popular programming languages and be like, okay, we have everything. What do you know? PHP? Okay, yeah, we have that, you can help. What do you know? Kubernetes? Well, yeah, sure, you can just use it, and you can join the organization. So that's how this kind of beast came to be, and as you can see, there is GraphQL, gRPC, sort of microservices. To make it even more complicated, I can even show you like all the individual technologies we were planning to use back then. So, you know, React.js, C#, PHP, Go. Also, we wanted to use Kafka for some stupid reason. I don't know why. And as I said, it went out of hand very quickly. And at that time, we had multiple meetings a day, sometimes, to discuss this thing. And if I have to summarize how those meetings went with one picture, it's basically this. So everyone was like, yeah, I know this technology, it's amazing. We also take that technology and we glue them together and we use some duct tape, and then it's super simple. Well, it's not. Thankfully, there were a lot of people that did not agree with this, and they kind of gave us a slap in the face to wake up. So essentially what happened was, well, all of these things are now private archives in the GitHub repository, GitHub organization that we have. And then we went for a fresh start. So the fresh start, the idea to be multidisciplinary kind of took a different shape. So instead of using all the kinds of technologies and be like, yeah, whatever you know, you can help us, we actually went a different road, and we said, okay, we just pick something that's easy enough for everyone to understand and perhaps also has a big enough pool of people that already know it. We also wanted to have a decent templating possibilities in that language or framework because, as we know, all of us are volunteers and we do it in our free time, so we don't want to do too much of boilerplate code writing. We dropped all the premature optimizations, obviously, because that was also one of the reasons why we couldn't ship the thing. And essentially, the goal was make this thing operational as soon as possible. And then this happened, so much simpler. We have the public website, it's Next.js and React. We have the API in Nest.js. We have one database in Keycloak, and somewhere there is an S3 interface, which is not on the graph, but it's also not that important at this time. So we took a turn, and I would say it was for the best. But then because everything is still public, anyone can see it, there were a lot of people still saying, well, this is still too complicated. Why do you need Kubernetes? Why do you need to use Keycloak? Why is it all of that? It's just a website, you know. But I would say most of these people, it was not the case that they were trying to be constructive. It was mostly just plain hate, which is not so nice. And actually, now I can give a funny example where it went wrong. So last Sunday, one person that has a campaign on the website was participating in the Bulgarian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And then he mentioned the platform on TV, and he was like, yeah, you know, I have a campaign there, so if anyone can help me, please go there and donate some money. And then what happened was, obviously, the visitors went to the roof, and then sometime later, this happened. So we do need scalability sometime. It's not all the time, but yeah, we do need to take into account that these things can happen. So this is just for the haters. The current status of the platform, as I said, we launched it last year in November. At the moment, we have about 180,000 euros worth of donations, which are coming from more than 3,500 unique donations and 3,000 unique benefactors. We have 18 campaigns. 6 of them are fully funded and successful. The organization has about 150 volunteers, 80 of which are actually code contributors, and the rest are like legal, marketing, design, and so on. We still have technical challenges. So as you saw, we use a lot of software, which is actually self-maintained because we don't pay for anything at this point. But it is becoming quite difficult to maintain it. So also doing backups is challenging now with all the user base that we have. So we're looking at solutions to becoming like more managed solution somewhere, somehow. But then we also have the problem with the cost because these things very quickly go out of hand. So this is sort of my call to action to all the smart people here. Like, if you have any ideas what we can change, where we can run this, great. Please come to me. I'll be around today. So I'm happy to discuss any options, anything. It will work out for me. So thank you very much in advance. Let's talk about my journey in the platform. So why I joined? Well, I have to start a little bit long ago, actually. I am very unhappy with the situation with charities in Bulgaria because, let's face it, Bulgaria is not the richest country. There are a lot of people that are quite poor and are in need. And, well, funny enough, there are also a lot of people that actually want to help them within the country, and they have the means and they have the desire to do that. But then the problem is that there are a lot of people that take advantage of this. They create like fake campaigns. They just get the money and then they run away. So the whole like charity type of sector has very bad reputation in Bulgaria, which is kind of sad. So I heard about the idea of Podskripe in November. That's when it became a big fuss about it because it was related to some investigation that happened for a similar platform. But that's when I heard about it, and I was like, yeah, I would totally want to do something like that. But then it went under the radar for some time. And then I joined in June 2021 because then they posted on Facebook and were like, okay, we already have the organization and now we're looking for technical people because we need to start the actual deployment of the platform. And that's when I came in. But then before I joined, and also at the beginning, I asked myself a lot of questions. And I think people that are looking for volunteering opportunities or contributing to open source would probably ask themselves the same. So do I know enough to be able to contribute to this tech stack? Am I experienced enough to actually do something useful for this thing? Do I even have enough time? Because it sort of feels like this is becoming like a second job. And on top of that, it was also like they have an existing team, so do I really fit there? And yeah, I can see people doing that, people asking themselves these questions, and they also let those questions stop them from even trying. So I would say this is not that scary, and don't let it stop you try this out, because it might actually work out. So let me tell you how it worked out for me. So far I've been, I think, 2 years into this organization. What I did, well, now I'm kind of supposed to manage the Kubernetes and Ceph cluster, which is quite a lot of work. I was a user before, but now I needed to learn like all the best practices and I need to make sure it works, which is kind of exhausting, but it does work out. I had to set up all the GitHub actions we use in our repositories to do our CI/CD. Before I joined, I had no experience with GitHub actions. They were kind of new at the time and I never used GitHub, so I actually learned something. Now I need to do operations as well, which, as you can see, doesn't work out all the time. I need to do security sometimes because, as I said, we don't have a dedicated person for this at this point, so I need to patch systems, containers, configuration, and whatnot. I also actively participate in all the architectural brainstorming sessions that we do for all the features that we need to build. And I guess my favorite thing was mentoring, because we're also partnering with a bootcamp, software bootcamp in Bulgaria. So people with all kinds of random occupation, they decide to have a sudden change of mind and become engineers. They go there, they have a crash course on software basically, and then they need to do an internship. So when that comes, one of the options for an internship is actually joining us. And yeah, then we need to actually help them get started, explain a lot of the basics so they can get it rolling, and then when they're done, they get a job. And it actually worked out quite well. A lot of them got a job very quickly, so it was very exciting to see. Another thing, well, we do have a star team, so legal, management, marketing, engineering. I actually see I missed design. I'm sorry, design people, they're also amazing. But yeah, actually the team is really stars. Those are people that have a decade or even multiple decades of experience in their own field. So for me, this is like an endless opportunity to learn because I can ask all the kinds of questions and I know that people can give me the feedback from personal experience and not by just reading it on the book, which is super good for my career development and then for anyone else that's actually part of this. We talked about all the nice things so far, but life is not always nice. Basically what happened was at the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, I got a burnout, and it was kind of bad because it's not something I've experienced before, and I didn't know how to tackle it. I didn't know how to approach it. I didn't even know what's happening to me. And the first time I went to my doctor and they said, well, we don't find anything physically wrong with you, it's probably stress. The first thing I did was quit my job. But still, like, whoever had this thing, they know that this is not something that passes away on its own. You actually need to work for it to go away and for you to recover. And in my case, I didn't know what that means. So something I have noticed is people that are going through something like this, they often feel scared or ashamed to talk about this. And I think that's pretty bad. You shouldn't be ashamed because this is something that does happen. And if you speak up about it, there are many people that are actually willing to help you. So in my case, I was vocal about it. And a lot of people from the organization actually helped me because they have either experienced it personally or they have seen someone around them experience it. So they did support me quite a bit. Essentially, they gave me a lot of advice, compassion, and positivity, and they also managed to sort of rebuild the enthusiasm that I always had and I kind of lost at the time, which was super nice, and I'm very thankful to them for doing that. On top of that, we also had a lot of meetings in person organized, and we also did online hackathons to get things to work quicker. And at some point, we also started getting a lot of confirmation from the media that what we're doing is actually important and it is useful. So all of this actually helped me quite a lot at that time to become the person I was before it happened. I tried to find some photos from the meetings that we had in person, and I couldn't, but I did find 2 photos of the online hackathons that we did. So this is me and my personal assistant. We worked on, I can see here, it's a sequence diagram for donations to a campaign. And you can also see that I'm in a call with multiple people. And that's actually quite very much at the beginning of the platform. So it is nice. It did help a lot. At this time, I would like to give like a open source shout out to all the tools that I rely on heavily to get the whole thing working, and we do use more of that in our day-to-day business at the organization, but these are just the tools that I personally use the most. Well, Kubernetes at this point, I think it's powering the world. It is basically an open source thing, very much powered by the community, and the community is great, so very much thankful for that. Ceph, it is backed by a lot of big enterprises, but you can use it for free, and I know that we're not even utilizing 1% of what it can do, but it does help us to get the whole thing running. And at this point, I guess I have to thank Rook as well, because they created an amazing operator that helps you set this whole thing up in your environment, because it's actually not the easiest thing to set up if you do it manually. PostgreSQL, obviously, because as I said, it's been there forever. It's simple, flexible, and well documented. Keycloak, I had no experience with it before that. I had to learn some stuff, but once I got the hang of it, I actually realized how much time it saved us in maintaining the whole thing and developing all kinds of different features. CNSpec, I will say it, like, I work for Mondu, we built this thing, but it does help me a lot in the security aspect of things, because I'm not a security person. I had to do it just because I had to do it at this point. And it does help me to configure policies in our CI/CD pipeline so all the volunteers don't mess things up that they're not supposed to mess up. I can scan our nodes, I can scan our Kubernetes cluster, I can scan our Google Workspace, and it does give me some valuable insights which I don't know myself, but at least I can get some actionable feedback how I can improve things. Some key takeaways from this whole story that I would like to summarize. I guess the main and most important thing that I would like to emphasize is don't hide your thoughts and feelings. Like, if you're not feeling at the right place, if you're struggling with something, you should speak up, share it with your peers, ask for advice. I think you'll be surprised how many people are actually willing to help you. And I would say if you're in a bad place, I don't honestly believe that someone will try to take advantage of that or make fun of you. And please don't think that this is the case. Volunteering does not mean you are not getting anything for your contributions. This is, I think, a bad thing to think about. It's not right. Yes, you're not getting paid, but indirectly you're gaining a lot out of it. So I personally gained a lot of knowledge. I have a purpose. I know that I'm helping some good cause with the things I know. And I also build a great network with people with experience in all kinds of fields. Contributing to open source projects does not require prior experience. This is also something very important because I have noticed that people are very scared of even trying to contribute to something because they think they don't know enough. Well, I think you should try, just grow into it. And something you should remember is these open source projects most of the time are created by someone in their free time because they needed it. And people actually get super hyped up when they see a random person contributing to their thing. It's nice for them, and it's also a nice opportunity for you to learn. Being part of a non-profit organization can significantly boost your craftsmanship and creativity. Well, yes, at this point, you have to build something with the things that you have available, and most of the times those things are close to nothing. So then you need to be very creative and figure out how to do it for the minimum cost, and that's something that I like. I learned a lot of things because of this. And then something that probably all of you already know, but it's good to remind ourselves, is premature optimization is the root of all evil. If you don't need something, just don't do it because this will only postpone the delivery of your product for no apparent reason. Like, once the problem occurs, only then start thinking how to fix it, not before it's even there. And simple is better. Sticking to one technology makes things easier. I show you the initial beast that we had. Well, yeah, getting rid of that was a great choice because I think back then when we had the very complicated architecture, it took several months of time to get something kicked down the road and be functional, and it was still not great. Once we threw away everything and we just had like one technology and very simple architecture, things went much better, and I think it took us like a couple of months to rebuild what we had and even more. So that's something to keep in mind. That's all I had to say. Thank you for listening, and I'll say it again, like, I'm up for any type of discussion that can help working on this thing and making it better. So please come to me if you have any ideas.